Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a fundamental change, period, that needs to happen in recruiting. Kind of what is going on in sales right now with SDRs and AEs and more content. Basically what Chris Walker talks about, right? At large companies, they're set up the same way SaaS companies are as far as recruitment, right? I mean, I was at Microsoft and talent sourcers there are SDRs and staffing consultants are AEs. And it's the same, only you don't have the customer success. Nobody's like doing anything once the person's hired to ensure that they're successful at the company. It's just here, here are the keys. See ya. Thanks for helping me hit my numbers for the month.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's two aspects to this, right? So there's what's going to help recruiters start conversations, start better conversations, easier, faster, whatever. And then once you have those conversations, then what is the process that makes people enjoy themselves? Right? I mean, even if whether you like come out as a hire or not, like how can that be an enjoyable process? And I've talked to some people recently who have a lot of, they have a high percentage of referrals and like a lot of word of mouth. And they've like there's this one thing in common, which is they've created this experience that is so good that people just tell other people about it. Like I've talked to a few of them who've like, they hire people just who are acting as references for other candidates because they'll have a reference call with somebody that is so good and that person's like, hell, I kind of want to work for you guys. Are you hired? It's just like those kinds of things. And I don't know. It's like pretty interesting, man. Like I think there's this like, in recruiting, there's just like this brute force mentality. We're just going to brute force our way into conversations. And I don't know. I think here, I'm curious what you think about this. Like if you're buying a product, there's a moment that you kind of like move in market. There's a time that you move in market. So you're like not, depending on like the solution, you're not always like looking for the solution. There's honestly, besides something like Riverside, there's not really any tools right now that I'm like looking for or even thinking about. And so somebody reaching out to me about something random doesn't make any sense. Like I'm not looking for anything. And so, but when it comes to recruiting, especially like passive candidates, I feel like they're always kind of in market. I don't know if they're like fully there, like searching for a job, but it seems like really high demand talent is, they always have this like grass is always greener, like the opportunities might be there, comp is through the roof. Yeah, I'll entertain. See, it feels like it's a different environment. So what I'm trying to get at is there a, different, does that warrant a different approach
Yeah.
or justify a different approach? I don't know.
And that's something I've thought about a lot, right? Because it is different. I've thought about this whole passive candidate thing. And to me, and kind of what I've come down to is it's kind of like companies competing on price. It's it's the it's the fastest way to the bottom. If you're going to compete on price, like Seth Godin says, you can only hope to come in second. Because if you come in first, you're probably not going to last too much longer. And I feel like if you cater to these passive candidates, why are they passive? Why are they always on the verge of moving? Is it because they just care about that next paycheck, getting paid more, and they're willing to, they're just waiting for that next 10% increase, 20% increase to come their way? And do you really want those people? Or do you want the people who are happy and they're starting to get a little frustrated, or they're kind of getting to the end of what they can do with that company? And the options for growth are starting to dwindle. They feel like they're on the treadmill. I mean, that's where I was. That's where when I finally decided I've got to just go out on my own because I'm not growing, right? I'm willing to take a risk. I was not growing in such a way that I was willing to take a risk. And, or if I didn't really want to go on my own, I would have said, hey, I really want to go build some, recruitment marketing program somewhere with somebody that gets it, that sees my vision and aligns, and go have some fun, right? Make some shit happen, stir up the world in that realm. So that's what I think. I mean, and I think there's just been a myth on passive candidates that they're not really passive, right? They're in market. They really are in market. They might just have a foot in market, not both, but truly passive candidates are not in market, right? They're not really open unless they've, I don't know, man. Like there's got to be something underlying in their world that if a random recruiter reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this," it's either A, they're starving for attention and they're not getting it where they are and they like the attention and they have no intention on their end of moving. They just want the attention, right? Like you'll have those people, tire kickers just seeking, recognition, right? And they're not even passive. They're just seeking attention, right? Because they're not getting it or they just want it. So they're getting some, right? So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing, but it all boils down to what do they want and what do you provide and how do those things align, right? And who do you want? Who do you really want? So I think right now companies are so desperate, they're just not even, I don't know. I think, and then that leads to the whole, if you guys would have gotten your shit together 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you wouldn't be in this situation, right? If you had people, if you were building up that demand, you're creating content that wasn't just about you, that was interesting. If you worked with hiring managers, they have to be the ones driving the shit, right? And I mean, they're the ones that are going to really attract the great talent. That's the bottom line, right? Because I mean, look at the people who are out there, Kyle Lacey, Chris Walker, the people who are, you know, visible and talking and sharing their knowledge and sharing what they know, and really good people want to go work for them because they want to learn from them. They want to be a part of that because they want to grow. It's always about, and kind of like what Donald Miller talks about in StoryBrand, and you're either helping people survive or thrive, right? If you really want the talented people, you're helping them thrive. If you're just a numbers game, you don't care, you're helping them survive, right? So I think it really comes down to that. Really, it's kind of a long answer to your question, but
No, yeah, no. I mean, I'm like, yeah. I'm trying to like, and tactically, I'm thinking about. I mean, I think like fundamentally the way that salespeople. I mean, if I'm talking about salespeople, I'm talking about probably SDRs more specifically, who are spending all of their day reaching out to people. I think it's just the wrong model. Like I can, at least as far as I believe, like I can confidently say that I think it's the wrong model. But if I look at recruiters, how a lot of recruiters just spend their day, which is they just spend it in LinkedIn Recruiter, building lists and messaging people and doing that. If those candidates, even if some or most of them are this, yes, they're employed, they might need, but they are still looking. Is that a bad use of their time? It seems like it almost seems like an elementary use of their time. I don't know what it just seems like there's got to be a better way. But is it a poor use of their time if that's their best way to directly connect with people who are like kind of looking? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a waste of time because
I think I mean, I want to say that too, but then at the same time, I'm like, but why is it a waste of time? If it's different than say, I think it is. I think we could both agree that it's different than what's happening on the marketing side, like with, or, or with
well,
like
to some degree.
to some, yeah.
Because I mean, there's a lot of companies that are heavy in the SDR model, that predictable revenue model, that
I think most of them
are
are.
full speed. Yeah, most of them are because it's easy to measure, right? Like it's easy to measure and easy to manage, and doesn't require that much skill or thought to manage it, to teach it, right? Here, go build this list, go email 100 people a day. And at the end of the day, I want to see that you've set up 10 phone screens in the last 2 days, right? They can measure that. They can manage that. You have to think. You have to actually use your brain to be able to manage, and you have to teach. If you be able to manage and teach, use your brain to do it the other way, right? Because you have to. It requires more strategy because you have to be thoughtful. You have to be generous. You have to be helpful, and you have to go to where they are and provide valuable information where they are, meet them where they are. But everything's about pulling them, pulling them, pulling them. Here, meet me here where I am. So it's a numbers game.
It is a numbers game, and that's the other thing. Okay, that you're bringing up a really good point. It's also having the mindset that less is more.
Absolutely.
Which I don't know. I guess I know why that's hard to embrace, but at the same time, part of me scratches my head and goes like, why? It's this idea that if I'm talking to one person a day who's highly qualified, like it's this not willingness to accept that talking to one person who's highly qualified is better than talking to 10 people who are unqualified, because 10 feels like more. It feels like better. But yeah, and it's like, but those things do happen. If you change your approach, the number of people that you're going to talk to is just naturally going to go down, because you're just like, you're reaching less. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's, I'm like, I look at what goes on the recruiting side of things, especially in tech, where you have like high growth companies who raise money, and so you bring in dollars that go to growth, and that requires people. So then your hiring needs increase. And you have people now that you're answering to. You're answering to investors, right? And you have, benchmarks you need to hit, and you have people you have to answer to. And so you get cash goes to growth requires people. Your recruiting function by default is going to be understaffed. And so you have an understaffed, under-resourced team trying to hire people to basically meet the demand of the money that you brought in, right? So what are you going to do? You have to you go, oh shit, we have to hire 20 engineers, and we have to hire 20 salespeople or whatever it is. We have to go find them. So there you go. And then that cycle repeats itself on the next round. The next funding round is more money with more expectations. And it just continues. And I'm like, with that model, how is anybody going to have the chance to stop and do something different? It's kind of it's no surprise that this just cycle of recruiters just getting more tools to do the same stuff just continues to happen. And so new technology is built to help recruiters basically reach out to candidates easier. That's it. It's just all how can a recruiter scrape more data and cold message a candidate? That's it.
Yeah.
How's it stop?
Well, the problem is they've waited way too long that now they're stuck. Companies that are designing a new product, they lead with the wrong thing, and they're just constantly in this hustle, chase their tail bullshit mode, right? If they would start with marketing, start with demand gen before they hire a single salesperson, start building the demand as they're building the product, then hire sales to close. Then you'd have this, it would be an equilibrium, right? And you're now creating demand and hiring sales as the demand is generated, not using sales to generate demand that isn't there yet. So now you're hiring all these salespeople, paying them a lot of money to go generate demand, and they're not marketers. They're not demand gen. They are spray and pray. And that's what recruiting's doing. And that's what they're doing. And so when you have that model for sales, you also are just playing catch up, and you have the same model for recruiting, where if you're smart, you go to market, and the minute in your, your whole goal is growth, right? Your whole goal is get to X and then get to Y. And then what do you need to get, when you're there, what does that look like? So you need to be preparing for that right away, right away with marketing. And marketing meaning also start promoting your company as a place to work. And you're doing that brand marketing, that demand gen, not only for your product, but for your future employees. And now you're not caught in this mess of being behind and having to pull it out, right?
So here's another question. I started writing this post. I started writing it today, and I couldn't quite figure it out. But it's this idea that if you look at the companies who have the highest quality of inbound interest from talent, right? So whatever that means, whether it's somebody messaging a recruiter on LinkedIn and saying, hey, like, I want to have a conversation, or it's somebody like applying and we're talking about qualified applicants. My assumption is that that is based on their product first and foremost. It's like the companies who have the coolest product or the sexiest product or whatever, whether it's known to all the general public or it's known within like communities, that the product is what's driving the interest. I'm not saying that's what closes a candidate, but I'm saying as far as like top of the funnel interest, that it's the product. If that's true, what you're saying about brand marketing associated with like just the company itself would be enough to drive recruiting outcomes as well. So it doesn't have to be differentiated between this is a great place to work. It's not like employer branding. It's not marketing. It's what you're talking about. Do you think that's true?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is marketing. I think it's creating change and changing someone's viewpoints, changing their awareness. Because if you think about it, if it's a product that they are interested in, that's not really what they're interested in. What they're really interested in is status, changing their status. So that's marketing. So you're helping someone change their status so they can say, hey, tribe, peers, look what I'm working on, right?
Yes, you're right. Because I've been told that the best engineers want to build products that people in their personal life get to use. So like the ultimate is when you can build a product that like your family member uses.
And why is that? So you can say at Christmas time, how do you like that shit I built?
Yeah, status.
Pretty cool, right?
Yep. All right, that's totally it. Okay, good. This is really helping me because I'm like, if I look at it, if I think about the companies who are all like everyone's competing with for talent, they all have the coolest products. And you're right, but it's even more than that. It's more than a cool product. It's status. There you go. You just nailed it.
Within their community, within their family, within their friend
Yes,
base, they want to increase their status.
that's it
And they would take a salary cut
for the status.
to increase their status because now their perceived value is higher, and maybe subconsciously they think that the salary will catch up,
It will.
right?
Well, their perceived value to another employer is
Right.
better too, right?
Yeah,
There
exactly.
you go. Okay, now it finally just came together.
So it's all about helping me thrive. How are you
Right,
going to help me thrive?
right.
So, I mean, if you're hiring hourly workers, you've got a different thing. How do you help me
Yeah, you're
survive?
right. It's a totally
Because,
different.
in this economy, like Bay Area, if you're an hourly worker, you're eking it out. You're just trying to survive, right? Who's going to help me survive the easiest? They're not even worried about thriving at that point. So, but yeah, and I think, kind of going back to talking about the more is better and why that's so hard. I think it's a myth around the way we work that's driving that. It's this myth of trading time for dollars that we no longer should be involved with, right? That's a industrialization, creating widgets. You were paid for production that could be measured on an hourly basis. Now we're paid for our brains. We're paid on ideas, and things that we can't put a time on, right? But yet we can artificially create this value, perceived value of work, of production by more. We're not producing more widgets, we're producing more emails, more the shit that doesn't matter. But the problem is the managers are making that matter. They're saying, here are your KPIs, focus on this shit. And if you want to focus on that, if you want to focus on emails and calls and screens, guess what you're going to get? Emails and calls and screens.
Good point.
Like it's human
Yeah.
nature, right? I mean, it's just what are you trying, what outcome are you really trying to achieve? If it's quality hires, then you need to change it all, right? You need to go to the drawing board and say, look, man, if I have a sourcer, that sourcer is not going to be pumping out emails all day. They're going to actually go out and embed themselves in that world. And so if I were going to hire, if I were hiring marketing people, I would just be out talking to marketing people all day long, right? Like just having conversations, meeting them where they are. And then they're going to say, oh, well, where do you work? And it's going to be curiosity. And it's just, again, Donald Miller, man. It's like peak curiosity and then enlighten, and then you'll get commitment, right? You can't go straight to commitment. And that's what recruiters are trying to do, 0 to commitment. You got to peak curiosity and then enlighten about what you do, where you work, right? It's a simple formula. And if I could just manage a recruiting team and I had the ability to take the time, the leash to say, okay, I'm going to take 1 or 2 people of sourcers, and you're not going to be measured on emails and phone screens and hires right now. You're going to go out there and you're just going to embed yourself and develop relationships. And could you imagine over time, like if someone could have the time to go develop relationships with their target audience, how much easier recruiting would be and how much more of a competitive advantage you would have, because people buy from people they like. They also want to work with people they like, right?
So 2.5 whatever years ago, my former company gave me the ability to do what you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's it. Yeah, they did, and because they did that, I've been able no kidding, on a daily basis, talk to multiple people in my industry and learn from them and build relationships to the point where it's like I have access now to people, and it's worth a lot. But it's because I had the time to do that and the freedom to do it how I wanted to do it and find my way into that way of doing things. Dude, last thing I want to go before I leave, or I'm going to say before I leave. What you just said just triggered in me again. I have no idea why recruiters on LinkedIn are not talking to their target audience.
Right.
They're talking about recruiting.
Recruiting. Yeah, they're talking to their peers.
They're talking to their peers.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Why?
why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, there's so much energy.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a copy workshop over the summer, and I remember the person who was leading it saying specifically, go look on LinkedIn, and you'll see a huge missed opportunity, because most people you see talking on LinkedIn are talking to their peers and not their target audience. And if you can talk to your target audience, you're going to be ahead of everyone else, because they're just talking, because that's what's comfortable, right? Talking to their peers. And it's all about, again, getting that attention and that pat on the back of, yeah, I agree, blah, blah. You're just talking to the echo chamber. Don't seek reassurance. Seek your audience and you'll win.
What you said about status, selfishly, that one thing like made all this time like so valuable for me. I mean, I love talking to you anyway, but it's just that's what it is. I was trying to figure out like, why is it the product? Because I know it's the product, but it's not. It's more than that. The product is just it's just an indicator of something bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Products come and
good
go.
shit, dude. That was really, really good.